Alright, today I'm showing off my SKX. I guess I'm going to call this my SKX reverse Pepsi tuna mod for now. And what I have so far is this is a case from Uncle Seiko that they modified to look like a tuna. And it's pretty well engineered, very nicely done. And I showed a video on how this was all milled out. It's pretty impressive. Sorry if my frame a little bit. Let's see, should I put back? Okay. And I replaced this with a Stargate 2 dial. I'll have the reference later on, but those of you who mod know this particular one, and it's got a radiant blue finish, but it's kind of got a satin look to it. It's not like super shiny, and it's not completely flat. I guess it's more flat, but it's a nice tone, and it shows up better than the stock SKX 009 dark blue dial, which is almost black. I never really dug that. It just seemed way too dark. I really wanted something that showed up more, and I figured, all right, let's do it. And I went with a contrasting day-date wheel because, I quickly explain, since most people either keep it all the same, all white or all black, and that could be okay, but looking at the way this configuration is with this dial, if you did that, if it was all white, this 3 o'clock position, it would look like an indices, but it would look like kind of long. You can see it go really close to the center, and it doesn't really match anything. And if it was all black, it would disappear more so. I mean, you see the numbers and the kanji or whatever, but then it would look like something's missing on this side too. So I thought if I did contrasting black day, white date. Sorry, it's turning over at midnight right now. It would probably visually look more consistent, the size of these indices is about pretty close to the day portion in white, and then the black date, date portion, and then the black day just kind of disappear into the dial bit. It's not perfect, but I think generally from a distance, it just kind of visually works better. It doesn't look like there's something missing there, and it doesn't look like there's an over enlarged indice either. Also, I did end up doing a modification on this dial. Originally had a white frame around the day and date window, the Stargate dial, Stargate 2 dial, and in white. I was thinking, how should I address that? And I was thinking I was going to paint it to match the blue of this dial, but because it's radiant and it's a very unique blue, there's just no way I would have been able to paint it to match exactly, and it would just look off. And additionally, that day frame, sorry, I'm hungry if you hear my belly, that day frame was painted or printed on, so there wasn't actually a 3D piece that was applied that lifts up and that I could use as a guide to paint over. So if I just painted directly over the frame, it would probably show up like something hand painted, and the fact that it's not quite the right blue, it'll look really off, because this surface on the dial is actually pretty flat. So as you can see, then I was thinking of subduing it if I couldn't make it disappear completely, by maybe painting it gray. Actually, I was going to use a gray marker, one of those ones for illustrations, or actually a Sharpie. They have gray colored Sharpie, and I was doing that, and it started to it wasn't going down even, because just the way the ink was laying on top of that printed material, and then I kept dabbing it, and it started to wrinkle and get kind of jacked up, and I was like, oh crap, that I just went overboard and screwed up my dial and all this work. But I thought fast, and I'm going to just get rid of it. Let's see if I can just remove the gray and but it was actually removing the printed material underneath. And I said, oh no, all right, let's just go for it, just remove everything. So I went and got some glue gun, and I have like these really fine Tamiya cotton swabs, really sharp points, and they don't leave lint or anything. And I used the glue gun and I just started to rub, and then eventually I got it all out, and actually it turned out better, I think. Don't have a frame on it, but I really didn't want or need one. The way I was looking at this dial, you see, it just would have just stuck out, like this white frame that just kind of floating there, and over a black and a white day and date wheel. So this is actually cleaner, and I think it looks better. And it's a happy accident in a way. It actually, because I really wanted the window to disappear originally, and I wasn't sure how I was going to do it, and I ended up getting it and actually just making it go away. And there you go. Next, this is a crown from a Seiko Samurai. I believe it's the 3rd generation, at least the newest one. And these actually directly work with an SKX that have a NH35, 36, 4R or 6R movement. It just fits. It's just a little bit longer than a stock crown, which actually did not. That's why I got this, because the stock SKX is just barely peeking out from this opening. It's very well protected, but you just don't have the grip to turn it and manipulate it. So I needed something longer. And I actually do have a jumbo crown, which I was going to use, and which would probably work. But that when I found out that this was an alternative mod for it to be used on an SKX, I said, you know what? I always liked this knurled finish on these, on the Seiko Samurai, and it gives it a real tool look. And it is longer. It's about as long as the jumbo crown. Actually, in fact, when I put it up to it, it's a little bit longer, tiny fractional. But this is, it's got a nice bevel edge here, and that knurled finish, and it just makes for a little bit easier to manipulate, since you got at least something on this top side to grip onto. And it fits perfectly. Just peeks out just enough. Okay. And originally I was going to reuse and keep the Pepsi bezel from the SKX 009, and it would look something like this, which isn't bad actually. I rather like it, but and I said, oh, that's cool. It's kind of like a Pepsi Tuna, but which they don't make. However, they do have a Seiko Solar Tuna with a Pepsi bezel. It's got a black, I think, plastic shroud too, but I was thinking it may be possibly mistaken for one of those. That's the only kind of tuna design case or body that has a Pepsi bezel naturally, like this or something like this. And I wanted to go a step further and make it even more different. I don't know, I do really like this look, but what I ended up doing is getting this from Yobokies. This was a stainless steel bezel insert. It was actually all black, the fill inside the engraving, and this is like a, kind of like what the SBBN 033 Tuna has. I used to actually own one of those, and I sold it, and this is why I kind of wanted to get one back into the collection, a Tuna, but this is actually better, and I'll explain in another video once I recap this, but at least I can custom modify this. There's more parts for an SKX to do more things, creative things with it. And I said, I always wanted to fill in the indices on my SBBN 033 when I had it, and when I had the baby Tuna SRP 637, I think it was. It's kind of basically like a monster tuna, but they always call it the baby tuna. But it had only like 15, 30, and 9, 45, and then that was it. And they were much bigger. I like bezel, timing bezels that have more of these numbers and then markings around it, rather than just the 15, 30, and 45. That's just me. I think this looks better, more to like just like a little bit more information and detail. And I don't like the big blocky numbers of the other designs I was referring to. But anyways, and I wanted to give it wanted to make it look like I like the red and blue colors of this bezel insert, but I also like stainless steel inserts too. This makes the watch look a little bit smaller, as you can kind of see here, because if you have the colored insert, it extends the dial, makes it kind of bigger visually. And because when you look at a watch, a lot of the read of what makes it look big or small is really in the dial. And that's why something like this, at least a Tuna, up against like a SRP Turtle or even a Samurai, this, even though a 48 millimeters, not this one, but the actual Tuna, looks bigger than a 45 or 44 millimeter case of the Samurai or the Turtle, just because, well, this round design for one thing, it's got no lugs, but additionally, because at least the version I had that had the stainless steel bezel insert, you only need to get the read on the dial, so it looks smaller, Anyways, I customized this, painted it with some enamel paint, and I didn't want to do anything too bright and stuck out. I wanted to just be enough to read some colors and not be super bright in your face, And I think this works. This is a dark red and a dark blue enamel, and I just painted it in, and I took some thinner, and then again that fine modeling like cotton swab from Tamiya, and just clean up the surface so that the paint remains on the inside. I think it turned out pretty good. I was debating whether to paint this red as well to match, but I kind of like it leaving it black, and I kind of didn't want to mess around with, sorry for the focus, I didn't want to mess around with trying to fill paint in here with the pip still in here. I might mess it up. Anyways, and that's that, and this is how it's going to look like on this watch, basically, once I get this in here. And I think that'll look pretty sweet. And I just realized I didn't know it. I really didn't, but I thought that, okay, I don't think I've seen a stainless steel bezel with red and blue fill for the timing indices. And then I just did some research very recently, and I found out that there is a blue monster. I was actually looking for blue monster, but I thought it was just going to be the blue dial version, but apparently there is one that's called a blue monster, that's first gen monster, that has it's a blue dial, much brighter, other things going on, but the main thing was the bezel was stainless steel with painted red and blue, similar to this, but it went up to 15 on the red, and the triangle at the 12 was red too. I said, oh, that's kind of cool. And it kind of gave me inspiration to just kind of keep with this instead of kind of playing it safe with this guy. Just do something completely original, I think, at least with this complete combination and setup. And I think it'll look pretty good. And get a little closer if I can. And again, I'm sorry about the focus if it gets off, because I have to check back and forth. And actually, I forgot to mention, I did upgrade the crystal to 1-tone crystal times. It's got a slight dome, which is kind of cool because the SKX didn't, but the Tuna does, sort of. If you've seen the original, the actual Tuna, they do have a dome crystal, and I kind of wanted to mimic that a bit. And this one I went for a purple AR coating this time instead of, I usually go with blue. You can see it right there. I kind of like that. It gives it a unique purple hue, which I don't think most people go for. And it sort of makes sense, being that there's red and blue. At least originally, I was gonna do this with this, and say, okay, red and blue makes purple, so why not do this? And I don't mind that in some light it may make the dial appear kind of purplish. I like purple, but not too much. It just gets it in the highlights just enough, and I think that's pretty neat. Looks good. I might leave it at this, or I'm thinking one last tweak is at the very tip of the second hand, I'm going to paint it red, just at the tip, just where it just crosses, and like as much as the indices, you know what I mean? And so where it crosses is where that's where the red will kind of intersect, I guess. And I think that'll tie into the bezel, and just that little hint of color without going over too much. I mean, I do like the simple white and blue kind of silver look, but I think it could benefit with just that tiny bit of detail at the pointer, and I'll be set. I think that'll look pretty sharp. So here's a look at the next phase. I don't even know which part this is. I'm a little bit less organized and planned than my last Seiko mod, but here it is. It's almost done, and thank you for watching.